I lost my father to lung cancer. That was monumental. Just turned my whole world upside down, and I took time off to grieve. It's kind of hard to, being a musician, you just got to hustle all the freaking time. Now I, had an ironclad excuse to take a few months off and just do that for myself. So I would write some songs. It was kind of my way of coping, I guess. I went back to the music that Dad enjoyed, which was country, and some of the stuff we enjoyed together, which was blues. And with listening to that a whole bunch, I started kind of writing in that style, and that's where you get songs like What's Real, I Can Dream You. And so I'm just writing this music that I think Dad would enjoy and is bringing me a lot of comfort in a difficult time.
My next guest has drawn inspiration from his parents, old country, blues, rock and roll, some jazz. He's spent time in Nashville. He's gone to LA and been on national television. He's come back to Texas and become a local legend. But every time you think you know what this cat's going to do, he takes a sharp left turn and surprises you again. A super, super talented musician with a lot of cultural knowledge and experience to share with us today. Please help me in welcoming my good buddy to the T-Cast, Matt Tedder. You didn't grow up here, right? Or did
just
you?
West, Aledo, Weatherford area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those two towns don't like being intermingled, but so I was in Weatherford city limits, but my mom worked at Aledo High School as the high school nurse, and so I graduated high school at Aledo.
Interesting. I may have crossed paths with her at some point back in the early 90s, maybe.
She wasn't there quite yet. She was probably still working like hospitals at that point.
Okay. Yeah. Scratch that then. Yeah. So when you grew up, and this is kind of an interesting thing I've noticed about musicians, myself being the anomaly, I think, in this group, is that you grew up with a dad that played guitar, at least functionally played or influenced you, whatever. I don't know. I don't mean to, I'm not being presumptuous, nor am I trying to demean his skill level. I'm just saying.
But the dad who played guitar. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And that was my dad. And, he knew a handful of songs and just old classic country or like a gospel tune or two. He kept a piano in the house. But he played a little bit of guitar and it's just cowboy chords and everything. But it didn't really interest me until I found an electric guitar. I was like, it just looked like a cool toy. At 8 years old, I was like, man, that one's red, Yeah. That one looks a lot cooler than that.
Did they make you start on something else, or did they push you in either direction, or you just kind of just were drawn to it?
I had such a great upbringing that way, is that they didn't really push it at all. I took a little interest in it, and Dad signed me up for some lessons. He actually got my sister lessons first because she's 3 years older.
Oh.
And that I cried all the way home after that. I wanted those lessons really bad, but also it's like the little brother syndrome of like, oh, I need to learn how to run because you can run.
Yeah.
But got us lessons, and I wanted to learn every AC/DC song under the sun, and
that's a good one. That was one of my other ones. Is where were you? Because you're talking about your dad playing country chords and such, which is fantastic because I'm sure that influence was embedded too, right? But you're still being a kid and whatever the tunes of the day are.
Exactly. Well, this is the early 2000s. I picked up a guitar, I guess, in 2003, 2004. And I guess I can't really recall the tunes of the day because I didn't really listen to them. I was listening to, like I said, AC/DC, Back in Black. That was a 80s record. And that band, I really loved. And, just your typical guitar starter music like Sweet Home Alabama and stuff like that. But it was through AC/DC I learned a lot of different things. But strange upbringing in that. Yeah, dad was all country and gospel, and my mom's from Turkey, and so she listens mostly to old Turkish folk music where I can't understand the words because I grew up here and didn't really learn the language, but yeah, I just whatever I gravitated towards, it was for no outside influence. It was just innate.
But you were kind of surrounded by a wide variety of sounds, right?
Yeah.
So do you go to Turkey on a regular basis? Your mom over there?
Somewhat. Yeah. My mom has a house in Istanbul. And so as a kid growing up, we would go there in the summertime. Once, she started working high school nursing job, the summers were off, and we'd take trips over there quite regularly during the summers. And I'm really glad about that because, I grew up in small town Texas, football loving, just typical Texas small town. But then you get to see a country like that is, people have their ideas of the Middle East and everything like that over here. And it's truly in Turkey, it's very, Western leaning and very, civilized and, some of the stereotypes people think of, aren't quite accurate, and it's a beautiful country. I love the music. I love the food, and just so much history, archaeology. There's
not like a Texas relic where they say, hey, this is 90 years old, so you can't do anything to it. You're like, 90 years?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. Isn't Hagia Sophia one of the 7 wonders? I'm not sure if it is or not. But
I don't know either.
I mean, that was a church that was built so long ago. It's just past, and, Istanbul as a city, just geographically important for thousands of years, fought over and changed hands many times. But
so when you say stereotypes, did you ever learn the stereotypes and then go there, or did you visit there and then as you grew into mature, a contextual being where you start hearing other people talk about it? Is that when you recognize, wait a minute, you think that?
Well, the way, September 11th, for example, 2001, that was a huge thing in American history. And from that came kind of like a Islam Muslim scare, and especially in a place like Texas or the South in general.
Yep.
That being sort of a strange time for a Muslim or Islam, and that's my mother's faith. And to hear things being said in the media, or just really off-putting things, and it's like y'all really don't know what you're talking about. And there are crazy people that are Christian, there are crazy people that are Islamic. It doesn't matter, like, that you can't just take that event and those people of that belief and then put that label on all the people, so I went over there and there's I just have family over there, and
that's fascinating. That's great. And so how do you think that influenced you musically? Did any of the musical influences from your father or your mother, in combination with all of the Angus Young licks, like how do you feel like your style became your style, and at what point did you kind of recognize it? Because you are kind of a chameleon too.
I don't like to stay in one place very long. I think I get restless and bored a little easily, and I started enjoying rock and roll. I took a huge love for the blues at an early age. That's another Texas thing that, like, Um, uh, there's a lot of good bluesmen from Texas. You know, T-Bone Walker, Stevie Ray Vaughan, heck, ZZ Top. Throw them in there. Those guys are great blues guys. And then, the list goes on and on. Lightning Hopkins and Freddie King. So I took a huge fascination with the blues, and I was kind of labeled that as a kid, blues prodigy.
Really?
Kid. And just played guitar, and that was it, really. I didn't really start writing songs until I was about 14. And, once that kind of entered the picture, I tried to do the rock and roll thing for a few years. And that kind of ran its course. And yeah, I just go everywhere. And lately, where I've gone is kind of country, psychedelic rock, folk singer-songwriter stuff.
All over the place.
Yeah, but just, I don't know. I guess it's come with age that, I like stuff that's not as in your face or present. I don't know. I just go through phases all the time. My mom laughs. She's like, every time I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm listening to this song, she's like, oh, that's a interesting phase to be in, I remember, in 8th grade, I was like listening to Slipknot, and then, in high school is like the Black Crowes, and then now a little bit of jazz, a little bit of country, Western swing, Bob Wills music from the 30s and 40s.
Love it.
It's just whatever I'm into at the time, and I try to maintain a kind of a sponge-like mentality of just like, what can I take from that? And, not so much, this is me and this is all I'm ever going to be. Instead of that, like, just if I don't want to listen to something or something gets old, that's okay. Move on to the next thing. And then, in a few years' time, listen to that and be like, oh, it feels so good to listen to that again.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that.
Yeah.
And there are people that really, I think when labels were prominent, that was kind of the thing, because you really needed to find your niche. And
I get it.
I think there's a broad appreciation for, and you're a musician too. So you're not.
Right.
I view you as, you're a guitar player and you like to learn different things, and you got people like Billy Strings bringing some of those vibes back, that normally wouldn't have been anything. You'd have to discover that from somebody that just tipped you to it. Whereas now you can find stuff like that on YouTube, and I find it fascinating too, but I think now that everyone is doing independent music, and I have yet to talk to you about, how you tend to go in a specific direction, but you as an artist it seems to make you a more well-rounded person and more appreciable from other people. And I think of all things, we're trying to get ideas here to be shared so that people can appreciate it. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to allow people through you to appreciate different kinds of music as well.
For sure.
It's healthy.
For sure. Yeah. And the world we live in right now with all the streaming services, everything can the algorithm works to show you the stuff that they know that you like. So a lot of stuff goes on repeat.
Yeah.
And I like getting those years in review on Spotify, and it gives you kind of like your listening profile. It gives you this avatar. And for me and my wife, we're both searchers. We're always looking for some other thing, because our daily mixes, nothing is the same. There's all this different, I got country, soul, hip hop, rock and roll. All those different styles have a feeling. And as human beings, we all have a wide variety of feelings throughout the day, throughout the year. And, you're not going to listen to, trap music as you're falling asleep. Some people might. I don't know if that's your thing. That's fine.
Or maybe you hate it so much you fall asleep. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But or I don't know, listening to Marty Robbins in the desert. These things just go hand in hand.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different moods and genres I like to dip into. And like you said, as a musician, I just feel like it makes me more well-rounded, and that I can feel comfortable in different settings musically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think it's bode well for you so far. And so part of your story that I'm catching up on here is that you did take a dip into Nashville. And I've talked to many musicians in this modern era. Mm-hmm. You know, I went to North Texas, and a lot of my schoolmates went straight to LA or went to New York or whatever.
Yeah.
And it used to be necessary, and now it seems a lot less necessary. It's still great to maybe meet people, make connections, you know, that are a little more authentic than just meeting somebody online, maybe. But what were your experiences when you went to Nashville? What motivated you to go, and then what caused you to decide it wasn't your vibe?
Well, like I said earlier, growing up in a small Texas town, football loving, you know, I'm 130 pounds and, you know, didn't really fit into that mold or much of anything in high school. So I just wanted to change, really. And I knew I wanted to pursue music as a career, and LA or New York didn't seem like I would really figure it out there. You know, I do like that Nashville's still Southern and closer to home than those two, and, you know, cheaper cost of living. And then I had a few friends there, and so I went out and visited a week and thought, I think I could do this. And granted, I was 17. So at that age, I knew I wanted, like I said, pursue music as a career, but I didn't know what style or kind of, you know, what avenue I was going to take yet. But with that being said, Nashville's kind of a good town to go, in that there's not just country music there. There's all kinds of music, and it's world class.
For sure.
You know, the musicians are A-list, all of them. And it's so just pursuing a career in music. And then as I got out there, you know, I tried to do really anything I could to be seen. I played on the street a lot there on Broadway.
Really?
I'd take a little
upper or lower, like the fancy
lower Broadway.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely not the Gulch. Yeah.
Okay, just for clarification's sake, there's people have been in Nashville that are going to put you there and try to imagine that. So I think there's a significant difference, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it was just like the tourist crowd, you know, and that area is blown up so much now. But I would just take a little kick drum and tambourine. I was like this little one-man band situation. And there's videos on YouTube of it. I haven't seen them in a long time. But
I'm gonna have to go dig those up.
Yeah. But I did that a lot, and, you know, gave some lessons, played in a million different bands, and but again, nothing really stuck, and I was just bouncing all over the place. And I lived in, like, somehow I was always living in a basement in Nashville, which is not the most inspiring area to spend most of your day as a musician. And so, you know, I got down here and there quite a bit, and, you know, just being away from home, moving away from home for the first time, and just being a little lost.
Yeah.
I will say I was just a little bit lost out there. Granted, I made great friends and great connections. I'm actually heading to Nashville in about 2 weeks for Americana Fest, and I'm really excited to spend a week out there and just, you know, I've got a new set of glasses that I'm seeing that city in, you know, that, you know, back then I just was a little lost, but granted, I did learn a lot of great guitar licks from a lot of guitar players going out there. You know, Jack Pearson was an amazing guy that I would go and see, and Joan L. Mosser and Tom Britt kind of they were so sweet to me. And then I'd go see the Time Jumpers sometimes with Vince Gill was playing with them.
Yep.
And this is a world-class Western swing group. I mean, just the things that you can do in Nashville that you can't really do anywhere else is something that was so amazing about living in that city. I often tell people that was my college. You know, I was there from 17 to about 20 years old. And, you know, it kind of ran its course, and I spent some time back home and thought, you know what, I'm maybe I didn't really give this town much of a chance because I was young. I wasn't going to the bars and everything like that, and didn't know really what music scene existed here in DFW. But once I came back and visited for a while, I was like, hey, you know what, I'll do this instead. And, you know, you can always move back and forth. I didn't, you know, come back thinking, oh, I'm a failure or anything like that,
right.
You know, but,
well, it's not for everybody, and it doesn't mean that has anything to do with your level of skill. And in a lot of cases it does, but obviously not with you.
Right.
You know, I've, you know, was the same way. You know, I had certain personal situations that get in the way, or you just have a certain type of personality.
Right.
You know, where, you know, just had a friend talk about when he went to New York and came back and just said New York was cool, but it just wasn't me. So you really got to fit, you know? So
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with your level of playing, but the musicianship is great. And I'm sure that was as good as most colleges to
For
spend
sure.
time playing with cats out there.
Exactly. And just experience life and, you know, be out on your own for a little bit. I highly recommend it. And, you know, it definitely just had its highs and lows, and I'm glad I did it.
So, and this may segue into something you don't want to talk about, but I'm going to ask you anyway. But was that part of the fortuitousness of the voice situation? Was that one of the pluses? Or you can still consider that a plus, that experience?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely. I was very fortunate to get on that show the way that I did. And I was living in Nashville at the time, and you know, I got that email. They were looking kind of last minute for contestants, and so I kind of went through the process pretty fast, and was out in LA in like 2 weeks for the blind auditions, and it was just pretty crazy. But I was ready for something, anything. Having been in Nashville for a few years and nothing really quite stuck, and here was this opportunity, and granted, it's, you know, I'm a musician, guitar player first, I would say.
Right.
You know, singing and songwriting have come secondary, but guitar was my first love. And so whenever something like The Voice calls, I'm like, well, I mean, I'll try it, but that's not really where I feel like my strong suit is. But granted, why not? And, you know, they agreed to let me sing a Muddy Waters song, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Being a huge blues fan. And a lot of people, that's something that they, you know, that's on their goal list, is to be on that show.
Right.
So, you know, I'm not going to totally throw it out the window, but granted, it wasn't like what I had in mind. But from it, I mean, it's really been, you know, I'm apprehensive to talk about it and kind of lead with it, because with a network television show of that size, it kind of overshadows everything else that you do in life.
Comes with a stigma.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, The Voice, you know, and then every other thing that you've done or planning to do just seems secondary. So I try to, you know, keep that tucked away a little bit in the resume, and because, you know, I just don't want that to be my focal point. And
of course,
and granted, I did it when I was like 19 or 20 years old. So, you know, I definitely, you know, I don't know, Mick Jagger still sings Satisfaction, which he probably wrote at the same age, but and it's making him tons of money still. But
well, you're making Muddy Waters money now. Come on.
But granted, you know, the things that you do, at that age. Like you want to grow and do other things. And so, granted it was a video that a buddy and I put together that they saw. They loved the video on YouTube. And so, I mean, Nashville kind of led to that. And then from that, these episodes are pre-taped, like the blinds and the battles and everything. So I knew that I had made it. So I went home. I knew life would get a little strange. I'm going to be on TV. There'll be a little change. So I'm going to go home with my family. And then while I was here, I got a residency at Magnolia Motor Lounge for a month, playing there every week. And I was like, man, this is a cool scene. And just meeting the musicians and everything like that. So it was kind of strange, as soon as I get this thing and, my backstory was all about Nashville. But, as soon as I was on that show, I came back to Texas and started anew.
And you had that kind of context now to say that you have a learned appreciation for the local scene at that point.
Right.
Because then you know how to differentiate it anyway.
Right.
So that seems like a really cool lesson too. And it seems like, you seem like you're a chill, evenly keeled guy, but that kind of an audition kind of setting seems nerve-wracking. Was it not nerve-wracking?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I started cold, just me and my guitar, like a flashlight told me to start.
Yeah.
And there is an audience, and I don't know, maybe 200 people or so. And, I'm just starting. And fun fact for all you voice fans, when you're in that studio, you don't hear the boosh sound.
Oh, you don't?
Whenever the tables turned. Yeah. Or the chairs turned.
Yeah.
So Adam was the only one who turned for me, but you just see this.
You just see the actual turn.
Yeah. And the crowd reacts a little bit, so
I want that job. I have to go in and try to time that.
Put in the boosh sound. Yeah.
So you capitalized your experience, whether you fit or not. You seem to have taken proper advantage of each opportunity. And part of that is obviously being good enough to take advantage of the next opportunity also, right?
Yeah.
For those aspiring musicians or current musicians who play and think that they can walk into a situation like that and just start. Is there some kind of lesson that you took from those experiences moving back into a local scene where you feel like your time and shredding in the practice room really contributed? Or
definitely. And the work never stops is what I would say. Like, no matter how far you get on that show, I feel like, granted, it adds notoriety, and to be on a show that size, like that is a nice little box to check off. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that, you're just getting the red carpet everywhere.
You're
after
not done.
That. No.
And Nashville, the same. You play with all those cats. You got to learn a ton. So you learned a ton from the experience in Nashville and there, and then you come back to Fort Worth. So, and you started tackling new projects here. What did that look like once you had that show kind of behind you and you decided to stay here? Tell me about your life from there.
So I wanted to take advantage of the momentum of that show, and so I started looking for someone to work with to record some of my original songs. And because I hadn't put anything out yet at that point, this was 2016. And so I chose to work with a great producer, Bo Bedford, a studio he works out of in Dallas, is Modern Sound or Modern Electric. And so recorded 6-7 songs with him, and he kind of got a band together. And that was very quick after the show. And to come back from that show and say I'm from Fort Worth and everything like that, you're a little bit celebrated. So it was just it was a really fun time. And then momentous. Was playing a lot of shows, and but as I was playing those shows, I kind of wanted Matt Tedder, my name, to disappear for a little while because it was so attached to the voice. So I started a rock and roll group called Polydogs, and we were together for about a year and a half, put out one record and a couple singles, and that was a rock and rolling project and a lot of fun. So that's kind of what happened after the show. And then after Polydogs had kind of, I decided to step away, both, lifestyle and then also musically. I just kind of got over rock music for the time. And so that kind of brings me to where I'm at now with country and folk and this new record I've had out.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that you went through some battles. I don't know to what degree, but you found yourself drinking a lot and doing a lot of stuff there was a little outside of your typical personality. Was that part of what helped you make the decision to get out of the rock scene too, or?
Definitely. I was in my early 20s, fresh 21, having come off some TV show, and, my head couldn't get through a door, and, I just, with that, enjoyed myself in excess.
Yeah.
And that became my life for a few years. And I was still able to maintain, a degree of professionalism with my work, and still show up and play gigs and not take it too far. But granted, I was drinking fairly regularly and experimenting with other things that one does in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And I with that, after a few years, I just started I don't know what really prompted me to take a step back. I think I was kind of looking at my 25th birthday,
Okay.
right in the middle. And I was kind of thinking, okay, like 5 more years, there's 30. Where do I want to be then? And I just didn't want to just be drinking and playing the same old gigs.
Okay.
And the same old.
Yeah.
Which in Dallas, Fort Worth, you can make a pretty good living here being a musician, but it almost gets a little too comfortable because you can make money and pay the bills fine, but a lot of great people don't get out of DFW because you just get comfortable playing the same gigs, and you go to the bar and that's it. And that's not really what I want. Like I want to see the world with this thing, and I'm lucky to be in a area of work that it can be done.
That's great.
But yeah, and with 25 on the horizon, COVID also came knocking. And so there was a big change, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to try something different. And I put down alcohol and everything for 2.5 years. I've recently found a healthier relationship with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a nice break.
That's
to
great.
do that and just clear my mind and refocus on, like, okay, what do I want out of life, instead of just what I had been doing for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Of just, party nonstop and playing cool shows, but granted, kind of the same show over and over again in the same places, DFW.
Well, that's having a high level view kind of what you're doing. And a lot of people, it takes an experience or some kind of an epiphany to get them out there, or other people will take it to the point of addiction and go down that road. Or I've even talked to fantastic musicians who are in a great touring big time gig and they're just kind of over it. And I'm like, man, forgotten why you got into this.
Right.
If this gig could be cool for a while, but if it's not cool anymore, I go play music somewhere else, make that sacrifice, right? And I can see that you're doing just that.
I'm in a moment right now where I'm about to do a little bit of a pivot. Like, I play a lot right now, like 5 nights a week. And that's great, but it also takes up a lot of time that I kind of want to spend more writing music and building a community among my fan base. That's something that I haven't really explored enough.
Yeah.
And that really, my favorite acts, I mean, the best example is the Grateful Dead, the community around that,
it's unparalleled there.
It's unparalleled, but, to just nurture the fan base that I have and just take time to do that. The music scene and I don't know, life in general, sometimes it can just take you and all of a sudden you're like, man, I don't feel like I'm the one driving this car, and you kind of just need to put your hands back on the wheel and maybe take a sharp left turn, and that's okay. And I've done that a few times in life now, and it's not as scary anymore. Like it's a little daunting to, just kind of clean up the table and reset it, but it's refreshing too, to just, okay, I've done that, on to the next, different thing or idea, sound, lifestyle, and just see what it has to offer. I learned a lot of valuable lessons in my sober time and I still take them with me today. It's not, I don't feel like, God just stops listening to, my prayers whenever I have a, beer or a glass of wine every now and again during the week, I still have that relationship and I'm thankful for it. And,
well, it's unappreciable to most too, the fact that, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, your broad interest in music and your time that you spend in the practice room and writing and things like that, to where you can pivot.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people get stuck in that straight line and then that's their thing. And you get complacent with that, you're in the same boat, because you can't take a sharp left turn and really pick up on something that you really like without having the time.
Yeah.
So I think that's appreciable. So once you move through there, now we come to the big project, right? So what, tell me a little bit about what inspired the newest record that came out about a month ago now?
Yeah, it came out in June. It's called I Can Dream You. It kind of began coming together, I'd say, in probably late 2021. Earlier that year, I lost my father to lung cancer. And, that was monumental, just a huge, unexpected life event that just turned my whole world upside down. And so with that happening, I took time off to grieve, and something that I don't do a lot. I don't take time off. It's kind of hard to, being a musician, you just got to hustle all the freaking time.
Yeah.
And now I, had an ironclad excuse to take a few months off and just do that for myself. I mean,
good for you.
And my mom was in Turkey that summer. And so my wife and I, we were watching her house out in Weatherford, and it's a beautiful house out there on the lake, and just brought me a lot of peace being out there. And so I would write some songs in that time, and it was kind of my way of coping, I guess. I wrote a few songs that directly address dad that didn't show up on this record, and they might show up later on. And I've written quite a few of those, but some of those, sometimes the truth that bear can hurt quite a bit, but who knows, they might see the light of day. But anyways, I would write other songs that, just what I felt like writing. There was no one around me saying you should do this or that. I went back to the music that dad enjoyed, which was country, and some of the stuff we enjoyed together, which was blues. And with listening to that a whole bunch, I started kind of writing in that style. And that's where you get songs like What's Real, I Can Dream You, and What I'd Do is kind of like a country song that is in that style of Hank Williams or something like that, just chord change wise,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just writing this music that I think dad would enjoy, and it just is bringing me a lot of comfort in a difficult time. And so from there, after compiling about, I don't know, a little over a dozen songs, I went in and met Gordy in Austin, just out of the blue, asked him to co-write, and we co-wrote the title track off of the record, I Can Dream You. And we did it in 40 minutes and cut a demo in like an hour, and it's really cool. I'm thinking about releasing it here soon. And it was so easy working with him in the studio. And so it was an easy decision to make, like, hey, do you want to produce my record?
Yeah.
And it was just a great fit. And
well, it was easy for him too. I'm friends with Gordy as well. And not only is he a talented guy, but I think he thinks quite highly of you as well. So I'm sure that I wish I could have been in the room. I did over the last time I was there. I was like, hey man, because you was talking about you're going to come down and cut a record, or hey,
oh yeah,
if you need anything, just call a brother. I'll drive down and do that. But
yeah, man,
that's great. I'll bet it was magic.
It was so easy, and yeah, I mean, not to discredit anything that I've done before, but yeah, I mean, this was everything I've always thought of in making a record, which is just getting a great group of musicians in a room together and playing for the most part live. All the basic tracking was live, and we were kind of isolated in the different rooms, but
right.
Granted, we're still playing together and reacting off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I had some crazy moments with Trevor Nealon, and he, we'd never played together before, but during that session, I mean, I'd take a little solo lead line and he would answer it just beautifully. And he's not looking at me, this is all just listening to each other, and just magic moments like that. And then basic tracking was done in 2 or 3 days, and then overdubs, I mean, my budget wasn't huge, so I just like, man, we got to work, let's just go quick, and it was the record was done in 7 days.
Wow.
And then mixed in probably about a week or so. Steve Christensen was engineer and mixing, and just did a phenomenal job, and mastering. I mean, everything, just that record took about 3 months to collectively make, with mixing and mastering and all that. But like the recording and overdubs and all that was like a week. I love doing it quick like that.
Yeah, it's just really old school.
Yeah, and just to not dwell on it, to do basic tracking, and then 2 months later be like, okay, let's do vocals. And then by the time you're done with the thing and it gets done in 6 months, you're like, I'm not excited about this anymore.
Yeah,
you just heard it too many times. So I was excited to do it that way, like, and I think Gordy likes to work that way too. Just be quick and get it done and be excited about it,
And it's less about the actual quickness as much as it is really taking live takes,
Right.
right? You're not doing
And that was, we were fortunate that way, just to have the guys that, we never really had to go past, 8 or 10 takes. I feel like would probably be about the max that we would get to. And then,
sometimes you're doing it just in case.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes like
Can
you
we
end up
beat
still
that
going
one?
back to the
yeah. But it's like, no, that one just had there's a mistake there, but it's just cooler,
Beautiful mistake.
Exactly.
There's no Tom Schultz session here.
Yeah. But yeah, they just have a phenomenal studio, and it just so yeah, that's kind of that record. And it, going back to the beginning of our conversation, it's all over the place genre wise. So I hope there's something for everybody in it. And it's kind of been interesting to hear what everyone's favorite is, and there's story songs, there's jam songs, there's, somber songs, blues, everything.
But a lot of it's really raw from what I listened to, right?
Yeah.
But purposefully so, because it is kind of retrospective and nostalgic for you. Is that right? Is what I'm taking from the story behind it with your dad's passing and everything seems.
Yeah. I mean, it's music that I think you would enjoy. Some of it, some of it you probably wouldn't, but that's okay. But there's parts that I know he would like, and it was my first time working with steel guitar, country leanings on the record. And there's some simple J.J. Cale style blues, rock and roll, but yeah, I mean, everything just not, that was something that Gordy was great at, is keeping me out of the overthinking process that I can get in so easily, because I want to outdo myself every single time. And there's a point that Gordy would come to frequently. He was like, dude, that thing that you did was cool. I need you to know that was cool, and we should just move on.
Get over yourself.
Yeah, get over yourself, man.
I can see it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just, I want to, I got a better guitar take, and it's just like, just stop. It's good. Just know that it's good.
It makes it more of a story too, because you probably do have a better guitar take in you still.
Right.
Or a better vocal take or whatever. But unless it's just mistake laden, I mean, you should be good to go. On something that at least you have a producer in this case who's also a musician who you can rely on him. Like, he's not just fooling with you or has a lack of musical ability or whatever. And there's something genuine about that I think a lot of modern music is getting so distanced from.
That was a really nice thing, is that, whenever I brought the songs in, Gordy didn't really change them around too much. He believed in them from the get-go. But granted, I mean, a few songs he was like, yeah, try harder there on that lyric, or, maybe we'll scrap that verse, but not overbearing notes that just took away the Matt Tedder of the project. And, it didn't turn into, totally Gordy's thing. It was so nice to and just play the songs the way I wrote them to be played. And I have a band that backed me up and did a phenomenal job on it all. The word you used was raw, and that really is it. I mean, it's who I am as an artist. And there are a couple moments where I wanted a polished steel guitar, or like a slide harmony guitar part over thought of George Harrison moment there.
Oh, yeah.
But those are things I want to do, and Gordy was cool with me trying them out.
That's cool too. You gotta, hey, You got to have the George Martin. You got to bring the George Martin out of Gordy too, right?
Every now and again. Yeah, I need 10,000 didgeridoos on this song.
We're gonna do it all in a 4-track. Yes. So, all right. So you hinted before we get to some playing. You hinted at some other pivots that you're going to do. What can you give us any hints as to some things you were looking forward toward?
Really, just leaning into this. I just put out this record under my name, and it's been getting some good traction. But here I am, still kind of doing my normal weekly gigs, and a lot of gigs that are not glamorous. They just kind of pay the bills, and that's really it. What I really want to be doing is writing more. Whenever you play 5 to 6 nights a week, and collectively throughout the week you've played over 10 hours of music, or 12, whatever it be. I'll get home and just not have much left in the tank to really write or whatever. And so what I'm wanting to do is just take a step back from so many gigs, figure out what I can do otherwise, and spend more time giving myself time, just like I did after my dad's passing, just giving myself time to experiment and write whatever I want to write, because I've just been spending so much time kind of being a guitar player for other people and, being busy as a musician. I'm fortunate that I can say that and make a living with music. But granted, I want to record another record. And I've got a couple songs in the bank, but, I think songwriters would relate that your best song is your next one, that's what I'm focused on, is just the next thing. And I don't know what it'll collectively be like yet, but I've got a couple new songs that are floating around, and just giving myself time and really putting in the work to do this again,
So with that circumstance, which is interesting, I think a lot of musicians are either in that position and there are quite a few musicians that aren't even in a position where they can say, yes, this is what I do for a living.
Right.
That's kind of a part of the stair-stepping, process anyway. But what do you see in terms of vision of you long term? If you could write and record, does that mean you're doing lots of touring? Because I know sometimes that's a little different too. What would you in an ideal world see yourself doing in the next 5 years or so?
Well, I still haven't done a ton of touring, and I'm really eager to do it. And that takes time. I've got no one working for me, so I need to be on that laptop sending those emails. And so, but yeah, I want to just be a recording artist, touring recording artist. I mean, I definitely want to be at a level that, I'm in theaters that sound good, I love the Kessler in Dallas, and, the Majestic, or, check off the boxes of like the great American and even world, venues, playing like the Ryman in Nashville, or, these famous theaters, which seat, I don't know how many, couple thousand. I would love to be at that level. I don't think I need to be as big as Taylor Swift or Zach Bryan or whoever. If that happens, cool. Right. I don't think I'm going to complain, but I just want to be writing and recording and putting out records every year or two, however long it takes to be satisfied with the work. And then go out and play for people. I really love playing live. And especially like a venue like the Kessler, whenever I got to open for Band of Heathens, like, here's a perfectly matched bill.
Yeah.
I know this is going to go over well. And whenever I have an audience like that is into the same stuff that I am, man, that was magic. And
awesome.
That's just really what I want to do. And so I know it takes work to build a community, you know, and that will come back and be open to whatever new avenue I'm pursuing musically. So that's really it. Just a hardworking, fun having, touring.
That's right.
Recording musician.
And it is, man, when you talk about doing the community and building a community, I mean, that's like a completely different skill set too.
Yeah.
But it used to be the old school, mailing list, or we'd sit down with 1,500 pieces of paper we got from Kinko's and writing them quick note and then literally filling out envelopes and licking them. I mean, it's
just
comes
that
with the territory,
little bit
right?
Of personalization goes such a long way.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I didn't have to send out a ton of vinyl on this record, but all the orders that I did get in, I wrote a little note with their name on it. It's just the things that you want to do, because I mean, it's because of these people buying your records that you get to have the life that you have.
Yep, that's your ticket to how you want to live, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, treat them like they're important, because they are. Yeah, they're very important.
They're the essence of, they hold your success in their hands.
Yeah, right? I don't understand. I mean, how I don't really know any personally, but like I know they're out there of just the artists that just cold shoulders and all that. But yeah,
that's passé.
Yeah.
Well, put me on your mailing list, because I'm always interested in knowing what direction you're going to go. And if it's further left or right, I'm perfectly happy.
For sure.
It's part of the ride, the adventure. Yeah. All right. So you interested in playing a little joint off the record?
Yeah.
All right. Let's set that up. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add to any of this, that you wanted to mention about something going on, or anything else that was important to you?
No.
Okay.
So, nice. Okay. Conversation.
Man, it's been an honor having you here, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, let's get set up and play a tune then.
Sweet. I'm going to do the title track off of the record. It's written by me, my good friend Gordy Quist. It's called I Can Dream You. You were walking on your tiptoes, careful not to interrupt those dreams I was having as you closed the door behind. I woke up that morning, don't recall a warning. Might not see you, but I can dream you any old time. I can dream you any old time. Wake up with a smile or a tear coming from my eye. I can dream you just for a while. Mr. Sandman, he been working overtime. Waiting by the front door like a dog for you to come home. Good boy, bad boy, I can be what you want me to. Walk down to the corner, keep thinking that I saw her, sleepwalking and talking every day and night to you. I can dream you any old time. Wake up with a smile or a tear coming from my eye. I can dream you just for a while. Mr. Sandman, he been working overtime. slumber, toss and turn, and I wonder how many days and nights I can keep hanging on. Maybe you're not coming back, maybe that's not all bad. I know where to find you, even though you're gone. I can dream you any old time. Wake up with a smile or a tear coming from my eye. I can dream you just for a while. Mr. Sandman, he been working overtime. I can dream you just for a while. Mr. Sandman, he been working overtime.
What's it take? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Success around the sandbox with second grade rules. A confident fake to make you do what they want when they won't pay the fool. A diplomatic face is the one to see you through. And don't let those bigots take you off your game, but just to let them loose. You sit here in the front seat, baby, ain't that sweet? Take a little honey from the money bee.